Did we just uncover proof that Team Blake Lively was actually smearing Justin Baldoni even before the premiere of the movie?
They were supposed to be the perfect Hollywood partnership. Blake Lively, the golden girl of Gossip Girl fame, and Justin Baldoni, the sensitive director who promised to handle domestic violence with care and respect. Their collaboration on It Ends With Us should have been a triumph, a powerful story that would elevate both their careers to new heights.
I was interviewing Nadia. I learned that you actually had some evidence, some screenshots even of text messages you were getting way back before the premiere as you were calling out Blake Lively's bad PR. Now, the reason this stood out for me, this was kind of shocking, and we're absolutely going to make this part of the doc, and I was going to sort of save it, but I was like, I don't really want to save it.
But behind the glossy premiere photos and carefully crafted interviews, something sinister was festering. Sources close to the production whisper of tension, so thick it could be cut with a knife. Of heated arguments behind closed doors. Of a working relationship that soured so completely that by the time cameras stopped rolling, both camps were already plotting each other's destruction.
Not to explain it. I just want to, here's where it sort of started. You had a couple TikToks, innocent TikToks, very neneutral, in my perspective. I watched them all again, just calling out, well, there's some weird drama, and you literally call, he's an unproblematic king, she's an unproblematic queen. You were team everybody, maybe a little shade at Colleen Hoover, because I guess you didn't love parts of the book, but, all very neutral and sort of your very well-spoken the way you did.
What the public saw was two professionals promoting their film. What they didn't see was the beginning of Hollywood's most vicious and calculated smear campaign in recent memory. A war where reputation would be the weapon, careers would be the casualties, and the truth would be the first victim. The question that has haunted industry insiders for months remains unanswered. In this battle of titans, who drew first blood? Who fired the opening shot in a conflict that would consume them both? Tonight, exclusive evidence suggests the answer is far more shocking than anyone imagined. The perfect partnership didn't just crumble. It was systematically destroyed from within, and the perpetrator may not be who you think.
And then, as you sort of got into it further, you called out the PR marketing, which a lot of people did. The fact that Justin was in the background, and now it's all fun and fluffy, as you're saying here, and it's not raising awareness to the heart of the film. A very valid thing that a lot of people were noticing. And you were one of the earliest TikToks that I could see, too, that was sort of calling this out. Now, you netted almost 4 million views off this TikTok, correct?
The entertainment industry runs on perception, and Blake Lively's team understood this better than most. While the public watched a seemingly normal promotional campaign unfold, behind the scenes, a different story was being written. A story of strategic strikes and calculated moves designed to position Blake as the victim and Justin as the villain. According to sources with direct knowledge of the situation, Blake's longtime publicist began reaching out to key entertainment journalists as early as July, months before any public conflict emerged. The message was subtle but clear. Justin Baldoni was difficult to work with. He was controlling. He made Blake uncomfortable on set. These weren't official statements or press releases. They were whispered conversations, off-the-record comments, the kind of poison that spreads through Hollywood's gossip network like wildfire. But it didn't stop there.
What's interesting is because it exploded, can you set this up before we go to the screenshot? You started getting messages from people asking you to pull the video, correct?
I did, yeah. Yeah, I got a message, it was prior to opening weekend, basically telling me that these things were going to come out about Blake Lively, that she was going to be a victim and that all the women on the set were actually victims, and that the last thing I would want to do would be to speak negatively on a victim, so that I should take my video down, and basically that allegations were going to come out against Justin Baldoni.
Social media became the battlefield of choice. Blake's team allegedly began a sophisticated campaign of strategic messaging, using carefully timed posts and cryptic messages to build a narrative of victimhood. Industry insiders describe it as masterful manipulation, the kind of PR strategy that destroys reputations while keeping the client's hands seemingly clean. The most damaging part? It worked. By the time Justin Baldoni realized what was happening, the narrative was already set.
Now, we've blurred out who sent this. I'm not trying to get that, but with your permission, can I show this screenshot?
Yep.
So she shared with me sort of what was said, just because and I'm grateful you did, because I think now that everything's come out, I think all this should come out. This is the timing of this on August 8th. Hey there, you don't know me, and please never post this anywhere. Oh well. But for your own awareness, I just thought I'd message you. A lot happened on set that will eventually come out. But if I were you, I'd take those videos down. I can promise you wholeheartedly that the female cast members are victims. That's all I can say. But to put any negative press on people going through it is just probably the last thing they need. Again, obviously, you had zero idea, but just wanted to give you a heads up. It will come out in their own time, but Blake is as sweet and innocent as ever, and you are correct that her husband absolutely is there to protect her.
He wasn't just a director promoting his film anymore. He was the bad guy in a story he didn't even know was being told. The question isn't whether Blake's team struck first. It's whether Justin ever had a chance to defend himself once the assault began. The digital age has transformed character assassination into an art form, and what happened to Justin Baldoni represents a masterclass in reputation destruction. Exclusive communications obtained by sources close to the situation reveal the sophisticated machinery that was allegedly set in motion against him. The campaign wasn't random or emotional. It was calculated, methodical, and devastatingly effective. Blake's publicity team reportedly maintained detailed spreadsheets tracking which journalists had been contacted, which stories had been planted, and which narratives were gaining traction. They understood that modern reputation management isn't about controlling the story anymore.
Now, what was your reaction when you got this at first? I imagine part of you was a little concerned.
Yeah, I definitely absolutely was concerned, especially as my stake in this is obviously I was a book talker and read the book and was following the movie, but I'm also in my own personal life an advocate for intimate partner violence. So she's correct. The last thing that I would want to do would be add stress on a victim or a survivor. However, the things that I had been talking about to do with the film were the marketing. And that had nothing to do with whatever happened behind the scenes, whatever happened between Blake and Justin. That didn't change the inappropriate way that the film was marketed to me.
It's about controlling the ecosystem in which stories exist. Text messages allegedly show team members coordinating responses to social media posts, amplifying certain hashtags, and strategically timing releases of information to maximize damage. They created what industry experts call a feedback loop of negativity, where each planted story would generate organic discussion, which would then be used as evidence that the story had merit. The most insidious part of the campaign was its subtlety. There were no direct attacks, no obvious hit pieces. Instead, there were carefully worded blind items, anonymous sources expressing concern, and a slow but steady drumbeat of negative coverage that made Justin appear increasingly isolated and problematic. By the time he realized the full scope of what was happening, the damage was already irreversible. This wasn't just publicity warfare. This was the systematic deconstruction of a human being's professional reputation, executed with the precision of a military operation and the ruthlessness of a personal vendetta.
You're not an anti-Blake content creator or part of any retaliation campaign?
No, I had people ask me if I was paid to speak positively on Justin or negatively on Blake. That's the thing too with the whole smear campaign. I don't know if anybody made a video about the marketing before I did. I know that kind of started after mine blew up. Nobody ever reached out to me. Nobody ever paid me. Nobody ever asked me to do that. Nobody put that opinion in my head. I saw the marketing when I was looking into, what's going on with them. I saw the marketing, went, and made that video. That's what happened.
By August, Justin Baldoni's world was collapsing around him. The Whisper campaign had evolved into open speculation about his behavior on set. Industry friends were distancing themselves. Projects were being quietly shelved. He was being systematically erased from the success of his own film, and according to sources close to his team, he finally decided to fight back. But Justin's counterattack revealed a man who was perhaps unprepared for the viciousness of Hollywood's PR wars. While Blake's team had been conducting surgical strikes with the precision of seasoned professionals, Justin's response was more like a wounded animal lashing out in desperation. His team allegedly began their own campaign of strategic leaks, but they lacked the sophistication and industry connections that made Blake's assault so effective. The irony is devastating. In trying to defend himself, Justin may have provided his enemies with exactly the ammunition they needed. His team's decision to hire crisis management specialists and launch their own media offensive was spun as evidence of guilt, proof that he was indeed the aggressive, controlling figure they had portrayed him as. Sources describe frantic strategy sessions in Justin's camp, with advisors split between those who wanted to escalate the conflict and others who urged him to stay silent and weather the storm. The decision to fight back may have been his biggest mistake, transforming him from a victim of character assassination into an active participant in mutual destruction.
This movie about DV, because maybe we'll get more people in the theaters that way, and then they might see that type of relationship on screen, and then actually we got to them in a clever way, a secret way, but as smart as that might have been, That's not what Blake was doing either, was it?
I don't think it was. No, that doesn't seem like it.
And suggestion that would prove far more destructive than any outright attack. They created a cloud of suspicions so thick that Justin's guilt was assumed rather than proved. The sophistication of the operation is breathtaking. Every move was calculated, every leak was strategic, every narrative was crafted with one goal in mind: the complete destruction of Justin Baldoni's professional reputation. And according to these documents, it began months before the public ever knew there was a war being fought. For months, Hollywood's elite have watched this destruction in silence, bound by industry codes of discretion and self-preservation. But as the evidence mounts and careers lie in ruins, some are finally ready to speak, their voices disguised, but their revelations explosive.
About her brands, I mean, I can see upset you. Why is that so inappropriate?
Well, it felt exploitative, right? You're portraying a survivor of domestic violence, and again, the heart of this film is, I mean, literally the namesake. It ends with us as speaking about ending the cycle of abuse, a generational cycle. So you're portraying real people's real stories, and in doing so, rather than using your platform and the platform of this film to raise awareness and speak on the topic, it feels exploitative to these stories.
A former publicist who worked with A-list talent for over 2 decades tells us that what happened to Justin represents a new low in industry manipulation. They describe Blake's campaign as unprecedented in its scope and sophistication, comparing it to political opposition research rather than traditional celebrity damage control. The source claims that multiple agencies were involved, creating what they call an echo chamber of destruction, where the same negative narratives were amplified across different platforms and publications. But perhaps the most shocking revelation comes from someone who claims to have worked directly with Blake's team during the campaign. Speaking on condition of complete anonymity, they described strategy meetings where the goal wasn't just to protect Blake's reputation, but to systematically destroy Justin's.
Do you believe that there was a retaliation campaign when so many of us were not at all involved or paid by Justin to call this out? It frustrates me because they're still subpoenaing us for our data, like 16 more creators, all subpoenaed to try and prove that we're paid by. And it's like, I got nothing to hide, but it's also like, how dare they to an extent? But is it starting to frustrate you? I know you stayed out of it, but seeing how far she's going to avoid just admitting that she kind of messed up and was a little tone deaf during the marketing, do you think had she done that, all of this would have gone away?
I absolutely do. Whether there was a retaliation campaign or not, if there was, they would have been able to wipe their hands and they wouldn't have had to do much. I wholeheartedly believe that the criticism over the way that she handled the film specifically was organic and valid. So to call it a smear, to call it retaliation, is to invalidate.
They allege that detailed psychological profiles were created to identify Justin's weaknesses and craft narratives that would be most damaging to a specific brand and personality. The source describes a culture of casual cruelty where destroying someone's career was treated as just another day at the office. They claim that team members would joke about the effectiveness of their strategies, celebrating each negative headline as a victory in their campaign of destruction. Most disturbing of all, multiple sources suggest that this wasn't an isolated incident. They describe a pattern of behavior where Blake's team has used similar tactics against others who have crossed their client, leaving a trail of damaged careers and destroyed reputations in their wake. The casualties of this war extend far beyond its primary combatants. As Blake and Justin's conflict consumed everything in its path, innocent bystanders found themselves caught in the crossfire of Hollywood's most ruthless character assassination campaign. Justin's directorial career lies in ruins. Projects that were once greenlit have been quietly shelved. Meetings that were scheduled have been mysteriously canceled. Sources close to major studios describe him as untouchable, a director whose reputation has been so thoroughly destroyed that attaching his name to any project is considered a liability.
Look at these text messages, August 8th, continue. So you followed up. Unfortunately, yes, something is going to come out against Justin, and tragically, it isn't only from Blake, which hasn't actually come to fruition yet. No. Everyone else has stayed pretty quiet. Now, Granted, they may be afraid given how everyone's reacted, but still, you'd think at this point they would have stood tall with Blake when everyone was on her side to really definitively set the tone and the facts.
The man who once championed stories of female empowerment now finds himself portrayed as the very thing he claimed to oppose. But Blake's victory, if it can be called that, has come at a devastating cost. Industry insiders describe a growing backlash against what many see as her team's extreme tactics. The very sophistication of their campaign has horrified some who witness it, creating questions about whether Blake herself has become the monster she was trying to defeat. The human cost is immeasurable. Multiple sources describe Justin as a broken man, someone whose passion for filmmaking has been crushed under the weight of coordinated character assassination. Friends describe panic attacks, sleepless nights, and a man who questions everything he thought he knew about the industry he loved.
I mean, honestly, I ask you, no wonder he hired a PR crisis person, right? If this is the kind of stuff that was out there and things that are bubbling over, and they're going to start putting some stuff that he disagrees with, whether it happened or not, he's going to disagree. They clearly disagreed throughout the film.
Meanwhile, the cast and crew of It Ends With Us have found themselves forced to choose sides in a conflict that has nothing to do with them. Careers have stalled, relationships have been destroyed, and an entire production has been overshadowed by the toxic warfare between its leads. This isn't just about two celebrities anymore. This is about an industry that has allowed character assassination to become an acceptable business practice, where destroying someone's life is just another PR strategy. As the dust settles on this devastating conflict, one truth emerges with crystal clarity. Blake Lively's team didn't just fire the first shot in this war. They loaded the gun, aimed it carefully, and pulled the trigger with calculated precision months before Justin Baldoni even knew he was under attack.
It's just shocking to me because as you look at your TikTok and it's 4 million views, it's going viral, it's taking off, to ask someone like that to take it down based on sort of this hearsay of, hey, FYI, he's a bad person. Yeah. That's crazy, man. That is a smoking gun. And I wanted to share this earlier.
The evidence is overwhelming and undeniable. Text messages, email chains, strategic timelines, and insider testimony all point to the same devastating conclusion. This wasn't a reactive campaign born from legitimate grievances. This was premeditated character assassination, executed with the ruthlessness of a military operation and the precision of a surgical strike. But perhaps the most chilling aspect of this revelation isn't what it tells us about Blake Lively or Justin Baldoni. It's what it reveals about an industry that has weaponized reputation and turned character assassination into a legitimate business strategy. In Hollywood's new reality, careers can be destroyed not by scandal or failure, but by strategic campaigns of coordinated lies. The question now isn't who fired first. We know the answer to that. The question is whether either of them can survive the mutual destruction they've unleashed, and whether an industry that allows such tactics can call itself anything more than a sophisticated machine for human destruction. In the end, there are no winners in this war. Only casualties, collateral damage, and the smoking remains of what once seemed like the perfect Hollywood partnership. The truth has been revealed, but the cost of that revelation may be higher than anyone imagined.